One of the people called Sierra Ramirez.
Good morning, Mr. Ramirez. You can just step in there and raise your hand. I'll get you sworn in. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're going to provide is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, thank you. Please be seated and tell us your name.
Hello, my name is Sierra Ramirez, S-I-E-R-A, last name R-A-M-I-R-E-Z.
Your witness.
Thank you, Judge. Good morning.
Good morning.
Could you tell us how you're currently employed?
I currently work for the Oakland County Sheriff's Office. I work in the forensic laboratory. I'm hired as a forensic laboratory analyst where I work in the biology unit doing DNA testing, and I'm also a member of the crime scene response team.
Okay, and how long have you had the duties of doing DNA testing?
Almost 5 years.
Okay, and have you had specialized training in that?
Yes, I have.
And regarding crime scenes, that's also something in addition to doing DNA testing.
That is correct.
And do you have specialized training in that also?
Yes.
And what does that training consist of?
For the crime scene or the DNA, or for both?
For both.
So for the DNA aspect of it, I have a master's degree in forensic science where I have an emphasis in DNA. In addition, I did a internship at the West Virginia State Police, which incorporated DNA. I also, when getting hired into the Oakland County Sheriff's Office, underwent a 1.5 years of training, going through hundreds of samples, doing interpretations, and doing the testing from start to finish, and before being competency tested by my peers, other qualified analysts.
Okay. And have you been qualified as an expert before in DNA testing?
Yes, I have.
And have you testified as such?
Yes.
And were you also qualified as an expert and testified as such in this case down at district court?
Yes, I was.
Your Honor, the people move Ms. Ramirez into testify as an expert in the field of DNA testing.
Your Honor, I am in receipt of Ms. Ramirez's curriculum vitae. I also participated in the preliminary examination. I have no objection to her being qualified to testify as an expert in DNA analysis.
Thank you, Ms. McCarthy. All right, so it's DNA testing and analysis?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, she's deemed an expert in that field.
Can you tell us how it was that you first became involved in this case?
So in addition to the DNA testing, I was also a member that responded to the crime scene itself. In October of last year, at the scene, I participated in evidence collection where I collected most of the evidence that was being tested in this case from the crime scene itself. In addition, afterwards, I received the biology request where I went on to do all of the DNA testing in this case as well.
I'm trying to pivot. As part of your duties, do you compile a report regarding your findings and what you've processed?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and when you do that, do you have a laboratory number that corresponds to the case?
Yes, I do.
Do you recall what the laboratory number that corresponds to this investigation is?
24-2071.
And did you complete reports, plural, in this case?
I completed 3 separate DNA reports.
Okay. And those DNA reports, each one is also labeled separately for your reference under that lab report number. Is that correct?
Yeah, each report has its own request number associated with it.
Okay. And for the record, one would be request number 0003. Is that correct?
That sounds correct.
And 0004
That's correct.
and 0005.
Correct.
And do you have copies of those reports with you?
Yes, I did bring my own copies.
Okay, I'm gonna, if I could approach, I'm gonna show you what's been marked as People's Exhibit number 9. Does People's Exhibit number 9 reflect your lab report number 0003?
May I look?
Sure.
May I look at my notes as well to make
Sure.
sure? Your keys coming down. Yep, 6 pages. This is correct.
I'm gonna show you what's been marked as People's Exhibit number 10. Does that correspond with your lab report 0004?
That is correct.
And I'm going to show you what's been marked as request number 0005. Does that correspond with People's Exhibit number 11?
That is correct.
Okay, and these are kept in the ordinary course of your business and your records for the
Yes.
Sheriff's Office? People would move People's Exhibit number 9, 10, and 11 into evidence.
I have no objection to that. I've received all these documents.
No objection. All right, 9, 10, and 11 are in.
Now, let's start with your response to the scene itself. Did you respond there?
Yes, I did.
And there were other members of your evidence collection investigative team?
Yes, I was not the lead investigator, but I was a member of the team that assisted in processing the scene.
And Valmyra was part of that team?
Yes, she was the lead investigator who authored the crime scene report.
And have you worked with her on many occasions?
Yes, I have.
Okay, and do me one favor, because I've started out this way, but not with you. Can you make sure you talk very loud, because the folks in the first and second row need to hear you also.
I will try to do better.
I'm not saying you weren't doing well. I'm just saying, just going forward. When you went to that scene, did you have any specialized duties as far as looking at that scene and processing it?
I came in with a DNA mindset, looking for evidence that could be collected for possible future DNA testing. My job there was evidence collection, where I swabbed several items for DNA testing in the future and also helped collect other items of evidence as well.
Okay, so you physically collected exhibits yourself?
Yes, I did.
And did you swab items at the scene itself?
Yes, I did.
And then did you test items that you didn't necessarily swab at the scene that you tested back at your lab?
Yes, and this is normal.
Okay, I'm going to direct your attention first to exhibit number 9, which is a report dealing with request number 3. Can you take a look at that?
Yes.
Okay. In request number 3, did you take a look at the items that had been collected from the investigation?
Yes.
Okay. And when you work on a case like this, do you work with detectives?
Yes, they are typically at the scene as well.
Okay. When it comes to deciding what to process for DNA, is that somewhat of a complex decision to make what items get processed and what items cannot be processed?
There can be a lot of communication involved. Ultimately, it's dependent on what the detective or the officer in charge would like to be tested, but we can sometimes, we as in myself and other members of the crime scene team or other members of a DNA unit, can give input on what might be the best items to have probative results.
Okay. And you've done that on a regular basis?
Yes.
There's communication back and forth?
Yes, sometimes.
Hopefully, but ultimately it's going to be the detective's decision where to direct your talents.
That would be correct.
Okay. Now, based on things that get processed and then things that collected later and then requests for process, that again is a discussion with you and the detective.
Yes.
Starting with exhibit number 9, did you process an exhibit that was a white mask?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and you have your own set of numbers regarding what you're processing for an evidence property tag, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and that evidence property tag number is not going to match up how we're calling it today in court. Okay, so that white mask for the property that was pulled was given your property number 172985, is that correct?
Yes. There were 2 white masks submitted for this report, but one of them is item number 172985.
Okay, and I'm going to ask to approach these have, I believe, already been admitted into evidence because they came from Jado Parish. But do you recognize this item itself?
This is item 172985, and my signature is across the seal.
Okay, and for the record, this one's been labeled 7B. I'm going to ask you, because of your responsibilities, do you deal with biohazards?
Sometimes, yes.
Okay. Would it be a hazard for you to open this up, or would you be able to open up the mask to show us what you tested?
That can be up to you guys. Most of the time I don't prefer to open it up just in case future DNA testing because I don't want to be responsible for contaminating, but that is the decision of the court.
I'll leave it in the bag. If defense counsel wants it removed, we can do so. If the jury wants to see it out of the bag, we can do so also at some other point. But I'll refer
Would
to
you
it.
feel more comfortable if you did plastic gloves or latex gloves?
Gloves and possibly a mask, yes.
Okay, all right, so if we're taking out the biohazard evidence, we'll provide that to you.
Thank you so much.
So regarding Exhibit 7B, what did you do regarding that exhibit?
So the item was one sealed brown paper bag containing one off-white balaclava mask. This mask was submitted where I collected a sample of DNA from the mask that then went forward for DNA testing.
Okay, and did you swab the inside or the outside of the mask or both?
Per my notes, if I'm recollecting correctly, I swabbed where the nose and mouth covering would have been. There was a seam on the interior of the mask, so I could make an assumption of the interior. So I was able to swab where I believe the covering would be.
Okay, and for any of these results to even start taking place, you have to have some standard known samples of folks that we're interested in for comparison purposes. Is that correct?
That would be correct, but I do want to put out there that in cases where there's evidence and knowns, I do process the evidence first before processing the knowns to ensure that there was no contamination between the known evidence with the evidence that is being tested.
Okay, and when you finally got to the point of making comparisons, what were the knowns that you were given in this case for comparison purposes?
There were 4 different knowns that I received. Do you want me to read the item numbers associated with them as well, or just the names?
No, at this point, we're going to go item by item when we get to that with the results, but who just in general did you have for comparison purposes?
There were 2 victims and 2 suspects. The names of the associated individuals were Zuazo, Linda Murray, Carlos Hernandez, and Hussein Murray.
And what type of samples did you have for comparison purposes?
For Hussein Murray, I received a blood card, and for the other 3 people, I received a buccal swab, which is a sample from the inside of their mouth, which collects skin cells that can be used to develop a DNA profile.
Okay, so going back to exhibit number 7B, were you able to get any connection between any of the knowns and that inside of that white mask?
For the results of this and the interpretation, a DNA profile is interpreted as originating from a single male individual. After we as in the laboratory part of procedure, but I did a statistic. I need to go into this real quick before I read the statistics so it makes a little bit more sense. It's a likelihood ratio where I'm comparing 2 different hypotheses against one another. The person of interest versus an unknown, unrelated person. You can think of it as a teeter-totter where both of these hypotheses are competing, and whatever one is stronger, there will be a value associated with it, and there's also a verbal qualifier as the last sentence to tell you how strong of a support that person may or may not be a contributor to the sample. So it's kind of a lengthy statement, but I'm going to have to read the entire thing, so it's all together. Based on the DNA typing results, it is approximately 9.68 octillion times more likely if the DNA originated from Joshua Zuazo than if it originated from an unrelated, unknown individual. This analysis provides very strong support that Joshua Zuazo is a contributor to the DNA typing results obtained.
Okay. I'm going to move to exhibit 7C, which corresponds to your lab property number 172991. And also 7D, which is also part of your 1792991B. Do you see those?
Yes, I do. And real quick, back to that first mask, Carlos Hernandez, Hussein Murray, and Linda Murray were excluded as possible contributors to that DNA results that were obtained. So,
Excuse me, I didn't follow that. Which item are we talking about?
I apologize. The first balaclava mask we were talking about, item 172985.
Linda Murray and Hernandez, and the third name you said?
Hussein Murray.
Very good, thank you. Now I understand.
I'll approach you with people's exhibit 7C and 7D, which have the face covering and mask inside. Do you recognize this exhibit?
Yes, I do.
And how do you recognize it?
It has the item number associated and as well as my initials on the tape seal when I resealed the evidence.
I'm not going to ask you to open that because that's, again, a biohazard, but did you do testing on that item?
Yes, I did.
Okay, regarding the face covering, did you come up with any observations of the face covering or the N95 mask as far as your visual observations?
So in this package, there were two separate masks. One was an N95. The other was a balaclava off-white mask, again, similar to a ski mask. For this result, for the balaclava mask, I simply took a collection of the interior of the mask again around that mouth and nose covering. I did not observe any other biological stains on that item. And for item B, the N95 mask, I took a swab from the interior of the mask, and I also took a swab from the exterior of the mask because I had observed a red-brown stain that was presumptively tested and tested positive for the possible presence of blood.
And did you get any results that were relevant to the knowns that you were given?
For the balaclava mask, the partial DNA profile is interpreted as originating from a single male individual. I compared all 4 people to this as well. Items, so Joshua Zuazo, Hussein Murray, and Linda Murray are excluded as possible contributors to the DNA results obtained. I then did a following comparison that based on the DNA typing results, it is approximately 166 septillion times more likely if the DNA originated from Carlos Hernandez than if it originated from an unrelated unknown individual. This analysis provides very strong support that Carlos Hernandez is a contributor to the DNA typing results obtained.
I can approach you with People's Exhibit that's been numbered 7E.
Would you like me to read
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought
the N95 mask?
I'm sorry. Yeah.
The N95 mask, there were two swabs that were collected. One from the interior of the mask, which was the DNA profile is interpreted as a mixture of 3 individuals. So Joshua Zuazo is excluded as a possible contributor from the DNA results obtained. And then another comparison was completed. Based on the DNA typing results, it is approximately 15.4 octillion times more likely if the DNA originated from Carlos Hernandez and 2 unrelated unknown individuals than if it originated from 3 unrelated unknown individuals. This analysis provides very strong support that Carlos Hernandez is a contributor to the DNA results obtained. So then moving on to the stain on the exterior of the mask. The DNA profile is interpreted as a mixture of 2 individuals. Joshua Zuazo is excluded as a possible contributor to the DNA results obtained. Based on the DNA typing results, it is approximately 5.44 trillion times more likely if the DNA originated from Carlos Hernandez and 1 unrelated unknown individual than if it originated from 2 unrelated unknown individuals. This analysis provides very strong support that Carlos Hernandez is a contributor to the DNA results obtained. Sorry, one more comparison. Based on the DNA typing results, it is approximately 9 octillion times more likely if the DNA originated from Hussein Murray and 1 unrelated unknown individual than if it originated from 2 unrelated unknown individual. This analysis provides very strong support that Hussein Murray is a contributor to the DNA typing results obtained.
I'm going to direct your attention to property report number 173005, a white T-shirt. That's going to be People's Exhibit number 7E. Let me approach that exhibit. Do you recognize this exhibit? Does it have your initials?
Yes.
Item number?
Yes.
I don't have it memorized, I'm sorry. It's 173005. And did you examine that white T-shirt that's been labeled exhibit number 7E?
Yes, I did. I collected 2 stains from the white T-shirt. There was a red-brown stain on the exterior of the T-shirt that indicated the possible presence of blood. I collected a sample from this stain. I also took a swab of the interior T-shirt collar for DNA analysis.
Okay. And can you tell us, did you have any results that were relevant?
For the stain on the exterior of the white T-shirt, the DNA profile is interpreted as originating from a single male individual. Joshua Zuazo, Carlos Hernandez, and Linda Murray are excluded as possible contributors to the DNA results obtained. Based on the DNA typing results, it is approximately 17.2 octillion times more likely if the DNA originated from Hussein Murray than if it originated from an unrelated, unknown individual. This provides very strong support that Hussein Murray is a contributor to the DNA results obtained. So moving on to the other sample that I collected, which was a swab of the interior collar of the T-shirt. I collect this and trying to determine who may have been a user of the T-shirt. The collar swab, the DNA profile is interpreted as a mixture of 3 individuals. I then completed 2 comparisons. The first comparison, based on the DNA typing results, it is approximately 1,820 times more likely if the DNA originated from 3 unrelated, unknown individuals than if it originated from Joshua Zuazo and 2 unrelated, unknown individuals. This analysis provides moderate support that Joshua Zuazo is not a contributor to the DNA results obtained. The second comparison, based on the DNA typing results, it is approximately 10.5 octillion times more likely if the DNA originated from Carlos Hernandez and 2 unrelated unknown individuals than if it originated from 3 unrelated unknown individuals. This analysis provides very strong support that Carlos Hernandez is a contributor to the DNA results obtained.
Next, property report number 1729981, which are the brown Timberland boots, which is marked 7A. Do you see that in your report?
Yes, I do.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 7A. This has already been introduced. Do you recognize this with your initials on it?
Yes, I tested these 3 separate times, so there are several tape seals with my initials on them.
And can you tell us what part of the boots on this first request did you test?
A sample was collected from the interior right boot for DNA analysis. I also found evidence screening indicated the possible presence of blood on both boots, but another sample was collected from the stain on the exterior of the right boot. So a stain indicating the possible presence of blood was swabbed in addition to the interior of the boot.
And did you get any results that are relevant to this case?
For the interior of the right boot, due to the limited nature of the results from this item, the data is not suitable for comparison purposes, so I did not do any comparisons on this. The stain on the exterior of the right boot, the DNA profile is interpreted as originating from a single male individual. I then completed comparisons. Joshua Zuazo, Carlos Hernandez, and Linda Murray are excluded as possible contributors to the DNA results obtained. Based on the DNA typing results, it is approximately 13.2 octillion times more likely if the DNA originated from Hussein Murray than if it originated from an unrelated, unknown individual. This analysis provides very strong support that Hussein Murray is a contributor to the DNA results obtained.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as People's Exhibit number 7F. Which are the black Nike shoes. You recognize your initials on that?
Yes, I do.
And can you tell us, was there anything relevant to this case when you processed those shoes?
So this is item 172992. A sample was collected from the interior of the right shoe for DNA analysis. Evidence screening indicated the possible presence of blood on both shoes, and another sample was collected from a stain on the exterior of the right shoe for a DNA analysis. Moving on to my interpretations. From the interior of the right shoe, the partial DNA profile is interpreted as a mixture of two individuals. I then completed 3 interpretations. Based on the DNA typing results, it is approximately 523 times more likely if the DNA originated from 2 unrelated unknown individuals than if it originated from Joshua Zuazo and 1 unrelated unknown individual. This analysis provides moderate support that Joshua Zuazo is not a contributor to the DNA results obtained. Based on the DNA results, it is approximately 3.63 times more likely if the DNA originated from 2 unrelated unknown individuals than if it originated from Carlos Hernandez and 1 unrelated unknown individual. This analysis provides limited support that Carlos Hernandez is not a contributor to the DNA results obtained. The last comparison. Based on the DNA typing results, it is approximately 17.9 million times more likely if the DNA originated from Hussein Murray and 1 unrelated unknown individual than if it originated from 2 unrelated unknown individuals. This analysis provides very strong support that Hussein Murray is a contributor to the DNA results obtained. So moving on to the stain on the exterior of the right shoe. The DNA profile is interpreted as originating from a single male individual. Joshua Zuazo, Carlos Hernandez, and Linda Murray are excluded as possible contributors to the DNA results obtained. And one last comparison for this item. Based on the DNA typing results, it is approximately 22.8 octillion times more likely if the DNA originated from Hussein Murray than if it originated from an unrelated unknown individual. This analysis provides very strong support that Hussein Murray is a contributor to the DNA results obtained.
Okay. Are there any other relevant results that you had from your first request?
Some items were not tested on this request and they were tested on a future request. I'm not sure if I went through all of the items that were tested on here.
Okay.
Would you like me to go through
I
any
don't
more?
wanna go
I don't
through
know. There's a
that.
lot of items tested.
Yeah,
I don't know how
the
much.
items that have relevant test results, I'm not going to ask you about the irrelevant ones. Defense counsel can ask you if they want to about any of those. I'm just going to ask where we have relevant responses, okay?
Okay, sounds good.
I'm going to direct your attention to request number 4, exhibit number 10. Directing your attention to property number 172871, the duct tape from the kitchen floor. That's going to be labeled People's Exhibit number 8E. You test that item?
Yes, I did.
Can you tell us sorry, Judge. It's okay. Did you test 8B?
Which one is that?
That duct tape?
The 3 pieces of duct tape that was found in the kitchen?
Yes.
I did test that.
And can you tell us what relevant results, if any, that you found?
There were comparisons to all 4 individuals, if you'd like me to go through and read all of those.
Yes, please.
Okay, so these 3 pieces of duct tape, I received them, and it's still intact. I took a swabbing of all 3 of those items, and then obtained a DNA profile, and the DNA profile is interpreted as a mixture of 3 individuals. So all 4 people in this case were compared, so I'm going to read all of them. Based on the DNA typing results, it is approximately 4.95 billion times more likely the DNA originated from 3 unrelated unknown individuals than if it originated from Joshua Zuazo and 2 unrelated unknown individuals. This analysis provides very strong support that Joshua Zuazo is not a contributor to the DNA results obtained. Based on the DNA typing results, it is approximately 1.42 million times more likely if the DNA originated from 3 unrelated unknown individuals than if it originated from Carlos Hernandez and 2 unrelated unknown individuals. This analysis provides very strong support that Carlos Hernandez is not a contributor to the DNA results obtained. Based on the DNA typing results, it is approximately 3.57 octillion times more likely if the DNA originated from Hussein Murray and 2 unrelated unknown individuals than if it originated from 3 unrelated unknown individuals. This analysis provides very strong support that Hussein Murray is a contributor to the DNA results obtained. And based on the DNA typing results, it is approximately 947 quadrillion times more likely if the DNA originated from Linda Murray and 2 unrelated unknown individuals than if it originated from 3 unrelated unknown individuals. This analysis provides very strong support that Linda Murray is a contributor to the DNA results obtained.
Okay. And my fault, and apology, I was looking for Exhibit 8B in a smaller bag. It's actually in this box. Do you recognize that with your initials as what you tested?
Yes, it was in the box to ensure the tape did not get squished together in a bag.
I'm going to ask you, did you test property number 172856, which was the duct tape from the victim's hands?
Yes. I took the swab.
That's going to be marked as 8C for the exhibits?
So I took this swab while I was on scene. It was a swab of the duct tape that was wrapped around the victim's hand while I was on scene.
Okay, I'm going to approach with that. Do you recognize that?
Yes.
Can you tell us what results, if any, you found on 8C?
I cut swab and the DNA results I obtained. The DNA profile is interpreted as originating from a single male individual. Based on the DNA typing results, it is approximately 18.6 octillion times more likely if the DNA originated from Hussein Murray than if it originated from an unrelated unknown individual. This analysis provides very strong support that Hussein Murray is a contributor to the DNA results obtained. Joshua Zuazo, Carlos Hernandez, and Linda Murray are excluded as possible contributors to the DNA results obtained.
Okay, I'm going to show you what's property number 172894B, People's Exhibit number 8D. I can approach. Do you recognize that?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and that's your initials on there?
Yes.
Were there any relevant results on People's Exhibit number 8D?
So this item contained the duct tape swabs and additional zip ties that were taken off at the MEs for additional testing. As I had already swabbed the duct tape, that went to our latent print examiner for further testing, but I did DNA testing on the zip tie pieces because those were not viewable during the time of the first swabbing. So those zip tie pieces, the DNA profile is originating from a single male individual. Based on the DNA typing results, it is approximately 14.8 octillion times more likely if the DNA originated from Hussein Murray than if it originated from an unrelated unknown individual. This analysis provides very strong support that Hussein Murray is a contributor to the DNA results obtained. Joshua Zuazo, Carlos Hernandez, and Linda Murray are excluded as possible contributors to the DNA results obtained.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as 8D. Do you recognize that exhibit regarding the zip ties?
Yes.
Yeah. And do you recognize it with your initials?
Yes.
And those zip ties and duct tape, those correspond with property number 172894B?
Yep, that's the zip ties I just read.
Okay. And were there any relevant results found there?
Those were the zip tie pieces I just read a moment ago. Those were the relevant results.
Okay. I'll show you what's been marked as 7G.
Mr. Judge, if I say need 8G?
Judge, can I approach for a second?
Come on up. We are going to take So, just 20 minutes back in your jury room, I'll bring you back in shortly.
All right, to the jury, please.
All right, I'll be back.
Thank you, Judge.
Good afternoon. No, we're not doing our lunch break yet, so yeah, please be seated. We don't need to recall. Everybody's here. I see everybody. And we can bring back our jurors. You know, I actually want to address the jurors, Ms. Ramirez, before I put you back up. So we'll, if you want to just have a seat in the audience for a moment.
All right, to the jury, please.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Please be seated. All right, before we get started, and we're mid-witness, but I did want to address both jury panels at this time, all right? I know everyone listens differently and listens to testimony. You know, you could maybe leave your head to the side, close your eyes, do something and still be listening. But we're also watching you as jurors, and we want to make sure that everyone's paying attention. If your eyes are closed, we don't know whether or not you are listening, okay? So I'm going to ask that you please keep your eyes open, and obviously that doesn't include blinking or whatever, just kind of our natural things. But there's obviously a lot at stake for everybody involved in this case. So please do everything you can to remain cognizant, and if that means during a break you raise your hand and you say, I gotta go get a cup of coffee, you gotta let me out of that jury room, I prefer to hear that, okay? All right, the next thing I wanna address is that we also have to remember that we are to have no contact with anybody that's smiling at anyone, outside of your jurors and your peers that are with you. The panel should not be talking with each other, and there's a lot going on here logistically. We've talked about that ad nauseum at this point. Be very careful about who you're talking in front of and who is around you and who you are communicating with. Okay? All right, thank you. Mr. Ramirez, come on up. And you remain under oath, so your witness.
Thank you, Judge. I wanted to pick up where we left off with the last item on your request number 4, which is People's Exhibit number 10. Can you tell us, did you test property number 1729898?
Yes, I did.
That's going to be already introduced, but shows you People's Exhibit number 7G. Do you recognize that as an item that you tested?
Yes, it was a pair of 2 black gloves.
And can you tell us, was there anything relevant to this case that you located on that glove, those gloves?
So there was a right glove and a left glove in the packaging. I labeled right glove as A, left glove as B. I only tested the right glove at that time because at some point you have to triage the amount of testing that you're doing for DNA. For the right glove, I took a sample from the exterior of the glove that indicated the possible presence of blood, and I took an additional sample that was collected from the interior of the glove for DNA analysis. So for the right glove, the stain on the exterior, the DNA profile from the exterior of the right glove is interpreted as a mixture of 2 individuals. Based on the DNA typing results, it is approximately 8.08 octillion times more likely if the DNA originated from Hussein Murray and 1 unrelated unknown individual than if it originated from 2 unrelated unknown individuals. This analysis provides very strong support that Hussein Murray is a contributor to the DNA results obtained. Joshua Zuazo, Carlos Hernandez, and Linda Murray are excluded as contributors to the DNA results obtained. So the interior of the right glove in which I swabbed, the profile is interpreted as a mixture of 4 individuals, and I conducted 4 different comparisons. Based on the DNA typing results, it is approximately 29 times more likely if the DNA originated from 4 unrelated unknown individuals than if it originated from Joshua Zuazo and 3 unrelated unknown individuals. This analysis provides limited support that Joshua Zuazo is not a contributor to the DNA results obtained. Based on the DNA typing results, it is approximately 262 septillion times more likely if the DNA originated from Carlos Hernandez and 3 unrelated unknown individuals than if it originated from 4 unrelated unknown individuals. This analysis provides very strong support that Carlos Hernandez is a contributor to the DNA results obtained. Based on the DNA typing results, it is approximately 177 septillion times more likely if the DNA originated from Hussein Murray and 3 unrelated unknown individuals than if it originated from 4 unrelated unknown individuals. This analysis provides very strong support that Hussein Murray is a contributor to the DNA results obtained. And the last comparison, based on the DNA typing results, is approximately 19.3 quadrillion times more likely if the DNA originated from Linda Murray and 3 unrelated unknown individuals than if it originated from 4 unrelated unknown individuals. This analysis provides very strong support that Linda Murray is a contributor to the DNA results obtained.
Thank you. I'm going to direct your attention to your lab report, request number 5, which is People's Exhibit number 11. I'm going to ask you, did you test property number 172857, which was the upstairs wall swab, which is People's Exhibit number 8E, if I can show that to you. See if you recognize that as an item that you tested.
Yes.
And can you tell us, was there any relevant results when you tested that item?
For this item, it was a sealed brown paper bag containing 2 upstairs wall swabs that had a apparent red-brown stain. Evidence indicated that the possible presence of blood. I removed a sample for interpretations. and the interpretation was as follows. The DNA profile is interpreted as originating from a single male individual. Based on the DNA typing results, it is approximately 17.6 octillion times more likely if the DNA originated from Hussein Murray than if it originated from an unrelated, unknown individual. This provides very strong support that Hussein Murray is a contributor to the DNA results obtained. Therefore, Joshua Zuazo, Carlos Hernandez, and Linda Murray are excluded as possible contributors to the DNA results obtained.
Did you have an opportunity to test item number 172859, the black duct tape, which has been labeled as People's Exhibit number 8F? Do you recognize 8F as an item that you tested?
Yes, it is.
And did you test that item?
Yes, I tested this item. I also collected this item when I was on scene. This black roll of duct tape was in a sink down in the basement. I collected a swab from the cardboard area of the duct tape, like in that inner area, and I tried to avoid any red-brown staining that could be indicative of blood. And therefore, the results are the DNA profile is interpreted as a mixture of 4 individuals. Based on the DNA typing results, it is approximately 81.5 million times more likely if the DNA originated from Joshua Zuazo and 3 unrelated unknown individuals than if it originated from 4 unrelated unknown individuals. This analysis provides very strong support that Joshua Zuazo is a contributor to the DNA results obtained. Based on the DNA typing results, it is approximately 7.19 sextillion times more likely if the DNA originated from Carlos Hernandez and 3 unrelated unknown individuals than if it originated from 4 unrelated unknown individuals. This analysis provides very strong support that Carlos Hernandez is a contributor to the DNA results obtained. Based on the DNA typing results, it is approximately 628 quadrillion times more likely if the DNA originated from Hussein Murray and 3 unrelated unknown individuals than if it originated from 4 unrelated unknown individuals. This analysis provides very strong support that Hussein Murray is a contributor to the DNA results obtained. And the final comparison for this item, based on the DNA typing results, it is approximately 507 quadrillion times more likely if the DNA originated from 4 unrelated unknown individuals than if it originated from Linda Murray and 3 unrelated unknown individuals. This provides very strong support that Linda Murray is not a contributor to the DNA results obtained.
So, if I heard you right, item 8F, the black duct tape, has both defendants' DNA present on that?
Analysis provided very strong support that Joshua Zuazo is a contributor, and the analysis provides very strong support that Carlos Hernandez is a contributor to the DNA results obtained.
Did you have an opportunity to test the gray duct tape?
Yes, I did.
People's Exhibit number 8G, if I can approach you to see if you recognize that exhibit.
Yes.
Can you tell us what relevant results that you located on 8G?
Yeah, so this was a brown paper bag containing 1 roll of gray duct tape. This one was located on the floor in the basement. I took the same approach as the other roll of duct tape where I swabbed the interior cardboard area trying to avoid any areas of red-brown staining. And then I had the following results. The DNA profile is interpreted as a mixture of 4 individuals. And again, I compared this to all 4 individuals again. Based on the DNA typing results, it is approximately 2,230 times more likely if the DNA originated from Joshua Zuazo and 3 unrelated unknown individuals than if it originated from 4 unrelated unknown individuals. This analysis provides moderate support that Joshua Zuazo is a contributor to the DNA results obtained. Based on the DNA typing results, it is approximately 1.62 times more likely if the DNA originated from 4 unrelated unknown individuals than if it originated from Carlos Hernandez and 3 unrelated unknown individuals. Therefore, analysis of this item with regards to Carlos Hernandez is uninformative. Based on the DNA typing results, it is approximately 7.89 octillion times more likely if the DNA originated from Hussein Murray and 3 unrelated unknown individuals than if it originated from 4 unrelated unknown individuals. This analysis provides very strong support that Hussein Murray is a contributor to the DNA results obtained. In the final comparison, based on the DNA typing results, it is approximately 87.7 quadrillion times more likely if the DNA originated from 4 unrelated unknown individuals than if it originated from Linda Murray and 3 unrelated unknown individuals. This analysis provides very strong support that Linda Murray is not a contributor to the DNA results obtained.
Okay. So again, the gray duct tape found on the basement floor by the zip ties has both defendants' DNA.
This analysis provided moderate support that Joshua Zuazo is a contributor to the DNA results obtained, but the comparison to Carlos Hernandez was uninformative.
And finally, property number 172981, the brown Timberland boots that have already been discussed as Exhibit 7A. Did you test them again?
I tested them again, and this time I tested the left boot for this request. Previously, I had been only focusing on the right boot. On the left boot, I took a stain on the exterior of the boot, and that was interpreted as a mixture of 2 individuals. And based on the DNA typing results, it is approximately 245 million times more likely if the DNA originated from 2 unrelated unknown individuals than if it originated from Joshua Zuazo and 1 unrelated unknown individual. This provides strong support, very strong support that Joshua Zuazo is not a contributor to the DNA results obtained. Excuse me. Based on the DNA typing results, it is approximately 9.54 octillion times more likely if the DNA originated from Hussein Murray and 1 unrelated unknown individual than if it originated from 2 unrelated unknown individuals. This provides very strong support that Hussein Murray is a contributor to the DNA results obtained. Carlos Hernandez and Linda Murray are excluded as possible contributors to the DNA results obtained. In addition to the exterior stain, I had taken 2 additional samples that were collected. One was from the interior boot and tongue area, and another was from the exterior tongue and shoelaces. Both of the interpretations for this was the DNA profile is not suitable for further interpretation, and analysis due to its complexity and unknown number of potential contributors. Therefore, no comparisons can be made to the reference samples.
Your Honor, at this time, the people will move the exhibits we've discussed, 8A through 8G, into evidence.
I have no objection, Madam.
No objection. All right, there.
I don't have any other questions.
All right, cross-exam, Zuazo.
Thank you very much. Ms. Ramirez, my name is Michael McCarthy. I'm the attorney representing Joshua Zuazo. I have some questions to ask you here this morning regarding your testimony, and if I don't make myself clear, please tell me that. I'll rephrase the question.
Sounds
Okay?
good. Thank you.
The first thing I'd like to address is the terminology that you used after you gave the various calculations or numbers related to various pieces of evidence. There's a chart that is provided with your report that gives a definition of those terms that you use. I'd just like to go through those with you. If there's a likelihood ratio of 0, the qualitative equivalent is exclusion. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And then if the likelihood ratio is from 1 to 1.99, that qualitative equivalent is uninformative, correct?
That would be correct.
If it goes from the number 2 to 99.9, the qualitative equivalent is limited support, correct?
That is correct.
If it goes from 100 to 9,999, the qualitative equivalent is moderate support, correct?
That is correct.
And if it goes from 10,000 to 999,999, it's strong support, correct?
That is correct.
And then anything from 1 million beyond is very strong support, correct?
That is correct.
Now, we've dealt with a lot of numbers this morning. Some were rather small, but others were up in quadrillions, billions, septillions, and octillions, correct?
That's correct.
So all of those fall into the same range, that last qualitative analysis or equivalent on the scale of very strong support.
That is correct.
But 1 million is not as very strong support as an octillion, correct?
Correct, based on numerical value.
Exactly. Thank you. So I just want to go through a few of these numbers that you provided based upon your analysis. And the thing that I wanted to go back to, first of all, is this N95 mask. That's something that was recovered in Cato Parish, Louisiana, correct?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, and then it ended up that a detective involved in the investigation of this case brought that to the forensic science laboratory where you're employed, correct?
Yes.
And asked that this testing be done. And the one thing that I noted about it is that Mr. Zuazo was excluded on that, correct?
May I flip to?
Yes, sure. That would be, I believe, in your report 003. And it's item 172991B.
Yes. Joshua Zuazo was excluded as a possible contributor to those DNA results obtained.
And it was also found that Mr. Hernandez was the contributor by a substantial quantitative analysis, correct?
For the interior of that N95 mask, the analysis provided very strong support that Carlos Hernandez is a contributor to the DNA results obtained.
Thank you. And we have these black Nike shoes, and that's 172992. And there is a conclusion that Mr. Hernandez is, and that's, like I said, the black shoe, he's a contributor to the DNA that was found in the shoe, correct?
Are you talking about the interior or exterior? of the shoe?
Interior.
Interior right shoe. This provides moderate support that Joshua Zuazo is not a contributor to the DNA results. And for Carlos Hernandez, this analysis provides limited support that Carlos Hernandez is not a contributor to the DNA results obtained.
So on the black Nike, neither one of them are contributed to the interior, is that right?
There's support that they are not a contributor. The likelihood ratio is a teeter-totter effect, so there is one hypothesis against the other hypothesis. So you have to think about it as the numerical value indicates how strong they may or may not be a contributor to that result.
And the one person that is a contributor there, 22.8 octillion, was Hussein Murray, is that correct?
That is jumping to the stain on the exterior of the right shoe.
Yes.
And for that exterior right stain, Hussein Murray had a DNA typing result of 22.8 octillion times more likely if it originated from Hussein Murray than if it originated from an unrelated unknown individual.
Now, I want to address, and thank you, I want to address 173005, the white T-shirt. On that particular T-shirt, Mr. Zuazo was excluded, correct? As
For
a
the
contributor?
interior color of the shirt.
Any part of it?
So on the stain on the exterior of the white shirt, that red-brown stain that I collected, Joshua Zuazo, Carlos Hernandez, and Linda Murray were excluded as possible contributors. On the interior color of the shirt, the analysis provided moderate support that Joshua Zuazo is not a contributor to the DNA results obtained.
I mean, there was a contributor that you were able to identify to that same stain there, correct? Or the
For the
collar?
interior color,
Yes.
the other comparison that was completed for Carlos Hernandez, the analysis provided very strong support that Carlos Hernandez is a contributor to the DNA results obtained.
Now, in just the mechanics in your lab, that item came from a detective who brought it to you, correct? And
Yes.
you understood that to be something that was seized from or picked up from the Cato Parish Sheriff's Office, correct?
Correct.
And so that T-shirt, when you received it, you not only did the DNA analysis on the sample that you took from it, but you or someone else in your office took that sample from the shirt, correct?
May I reference what I,
Sure.
how exactly I collected it? So 3055. Yes. So for the collar, I took two wet swabs and swabbed the interior collar for DNA. For the red blood stain, I took a small 0.5 by 0.5 centimeter cutting and moved that forward for DNA analysis. There would be additional stain remaining.
This was a large size shirt, like a 6X, correct? White shirt?
If you don't write, in my notes I have brand HB and size 6XLT.
Thank you. And so that is a fairly substantial shirt, correct? I mean, size shirt.
Yes.
And there, on the collar, you found Mr. Hernandez DNA. You did not find Mr. Zuazo's DNA anywhere on that shirt, correct?
There was moderate support that Joshua Zuazo was not the contributor to the interior collar of the shirt.
Okay, and so we've got a couple of, I guess, negatives in there. You've got those analysis that lead you to conclude that someone is a contributor, correct? Such as the contributor to the blood stain was Mr. Murray in that case, as far as the white shirt goes, by 17.2. No, I got the wrong one. 17.2 was Mr. Hernandez on the collar, but there was the blood or the dark stain on the white shirt. You analyzed that as well, correct?
Yeah, so the stain on the exterior of the shirt was 17.2 octillion times more likely if it originated from Hussein Murray than if it originated from an unrelated unknown individual. The analysis provided very strong support that Hussein Murray is a contributor to the DNA results obtained.
So we've got in that shirt, you got very strong support that two individuals contributed to the DNA found on it, Mr. Hernandez and Mr. Murray. And then we have moderate support that Mr. Zuazo is not a contributor, correct?
Yeah, so the samples, because they are processed separately, for the stain on the exterior shirt, that's considered a single source profile. It's separate than the collar of the shirt that indicated a mixture of 3 individuals.
The moderate support that someone is not a contributor, I just want to get an explanation given to the juries about the difference between, being positive is a contributor and being negative is not a contributor. How do we use that scale in order to make that determination about not being a contributor?
So kind of going back to that likelihood ratio, where I said you have one hypothesis on one side and the other hypotheses on the other side of this theoretical teeter-totter. So on one side of the teeter-totter, there's 3 unrelated unknown individuals. And on the other side of the teeter-totter, there's Joshua Zuazo and 2 unrelated unknown individuals. It is indicating there's more support for there to be 3 unrelated unknown individuals, and therefore it's more likely that that is the reason for the statistic, and that is why it provided moderate support that Joshua Zuazo is not a contributor to the DNA results.
And so this is doing the statistical analysis through some sort of a formula where you come up with the conclusion about moderate support that he is not a contributor, correct?
So all the numerical values that are generated, the verbal statement, that verbal qualifier is very strong, moderate, that is based on our verbal scale that is in all of our notes and all of our reports when we do comparisons. I don't come up with those numbers. Those numbers have been previously determined for our laboratory.
Meaning the numbers from 0 all the way to 1 million plus.
That is correct.
Okay. But the idea that somebody is not a contributor, I mean, there's no evidence on that T-shirt that Mr. Zuazo is a contributor, correct?
So I think I understand. He is not completely excluded from this mixture. There's still maybe some types within that DNA that could be reason for support that he could be in there, but overall in the entire profile as a whole, it is more likely that he is not a contributor based on the DNA results.
Okay. And so while this isn't an exclusion, you've got nothing other than what you said could possibly be. You've got no evidence to say that he is a contributor, correct?
The statistic did not indicate that he was a contributor.
Okay. And let's talk just a bit about that statistical formula. Can you explain to the jury where these numbers come from and exactly how it is that you do the analysis that gives you that bottom line of either moderate support or excluded or whatever the final determination is?
Would you like me to just explain the software that we're using, or would you kind of like a baseline of all of DNA analysis?
Well, what I'd like for you to explain is the formula. How do we come up, or how do you, rather, come up with these numbers? What is that formula?
So we use something called StarMix. It's a software that has been validated and used in many forensic laboratories across the country and even globally. I do not come up with the formula. It is given by the software company, and it's a biological modeling software that includes many different factors that a human cannot just simply do. It's a continuous statistical method, so it will have different peaks, how likely different contributors are. So when I'm looking at a DNA profile for interpretation, there are many things that I'm determining. The only thing I do is determine how many people could be within the mixture. That is the only thing I put into the profile, or for the StarMix to do. StarMix then has its own algorithm that will produce the statistics, how likely someone could be a contributor. Also going in, it will parse out what types of DNA per person might be part of that contributor itself. I hope that makes sense without a lot of context going into it.
So it isn't that you sit down with a calculator or a slide rule or a piece of paper and a very sharp pencil to make a calculation to make a determination of its 1 in 572 octillion chances that it's anybody other than whoever you identify. It's you get this information, you do the testing, the DNA profile is then put into this StarMix program.
That would
and
be
it
correct.
spits out a number.
Yeah, the software has been validated by our agency, and the DNA profile is input. I add in how many contributors I think it is, and the software does the rest of the work for me.
Okay, and just going over that last part, where the contribution that you make is you say how many contributors you suspect might be in this sample that is being analyzed. Is that right?
That is correct.
And so that's a hypothesis that, in this case in particular, there's a number of these samples that were submitted that have all 4 names in there: Mr. Zuazo, Mr. Hernandez, Mr. Murray, Mrs. Murray, correct?
Correct.
But you don't know when you start out for sure who it is, correct?
Correct.
Your DNA analysis really is to get the sample off whatever item is brought to you for analysis, and then take that sample and put it through this StarMix program in order to come up with these numbers. Is that right?
Yeah. I decide how many people could be part of a sample through interpretation. Very, very briefly, you inherit DNA from your mother and your father, so you get one DNA type from your mom, one DNA type from your dad. And when I'm looking at the DNA profile, it looks like peaks. So when I'm looking at an area, we look at 24 different areas, that if there are more than 2 types, there's indication that that's more than 2 people then. And for the most part, your mom and your dad will give you 2 different types, but sometimes they might give you the same DNA type. So when looking at the profiles, if there's 3 or 4 people, I was seeing several different types at several different contributions and percentages. There's a lot of looking at the types and what could be likely for different people contributing different amounts. I have an idea going into the software what might be generated, but the software ultimately incorporates more aspects of biological modeling than I can do as a single person.
Thank you. Now, going, I think it's to number 5, your report 005, dealing with the black or the brown boots.
Yes.
And in that analysis, as I understood, what you concluded was that Mr. Zuazo was not a contributor to the brown boots. Is that right?
That
I'm
was
looking at
from the
what-
exterior stain I collected from the left boot.
And isn't it true that there was a collection made from the interior of the boot as well?
Yes, so the reason the boot was tested all 3 times was every time I collected a sample, I was not able to get a usable profile for comparison purposes. That's why it was tested over and over. Again, I don't know where the DNA is going to be in the boot. I don't know where the best cells will be, quote unquote. I don't know what kind of sample I'm going to get when I'm swabbing an area for DNA. So because of that, I tried a couple different times to get a profile that could be used, and ultimately I was not able to get a profile that could be used for comparison purposes.
And you're talking about the interior of the boots?
That is correct. Interior. For the exterior on both boots, I believe I had comparisons that were completed.
Okay. And in those interiors, there was nothing, so there's nothing to say that those boots had Mr. Zuazo's feet inside of them, correct?
I believe, without going back and looking at my notes, that a couple of those interpretations I had more than 5 people. So another part of our interpretation is we only do statistics with 1 to 4 people. If it looks like it could be more, we don't do any comparisons on that because we don't want to be essentially guessing on how many people may be contributing to the sample. So we do have a cutoff of how many people we will utilize for a comparison in terms of the evidence sample. So when looking at these samples, there might have been a lot of types there, so I wasn't able to determine how many people may be there, or a scenario where there was 5 or more people and we do not do anything with those samples.
And these were timberline boots, correct?
Yes.
They were not any other type. You're quite certain that they're timberline, not Wolverine steel-toed boots.
May I just check my notes
Sure.
to ensure that I'm not misspeaking? Yes, 1 sealed brown paper bag containing 1 pair of tan Timberland boots.
Thank you. Now, one other thing about the DNA analysis that you do on any sample that you receive, on any item of evidence, you're unable to tell when that sample was placed on that item, correct?
That's correct. DNA is definitely more able in helping of who may be a contributor. I don't know why the DNA got there, and I don't know when the DNA was placed there. It's a great tool for assessing who would be a contributor to that DNA profile that I'm looking at, though.
If you had that information about the when.
For the interpretation, it does not matter for us of when it happened. We're just
Okay.
looking to see who could be a contributor to the DNA results obtained.
Thank you. I appreciate your answers or your testimony, and I have no further questions.
Cross Hernandez.
Safe to say good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
All right, so I have a few questions. I know you described to Mr. Petrofessa when he asked how you got known samples, and I believe you described that in some of them you had a swabbing of skin cells inside the mouth, or what we call a buccal swab. Is that correct?
That would be correct.
And then you also had, I think, what you called a blood card, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so can you describe to the jury essentially what is DNA? Is it always blood? Is it skin cells? Can you describe that to the jury?
DNA, so deoxyribonucleic acid, it's a genetic material where you inherit it from your parents, from your mom, and from your dad. It can be found in many cells within the body, types such as skin cells, blood cells, like in blood it's the white blood cell specifically, and in sperm cells, for example. All the same cells will have the same DNA profile that we will obtain for the reference samples.
Okay. So for instance, I could make someone a cup of coffee and I'm touching that coffee mug. So I would probably be leaving some sort of skin cells, correct? It's possible, at least.
It's possible. In addition, we also kind of have a statement that goes along with that activity level, is what we call it within the DNA world of, can I just read the statement at the bottom of my report?
Sure.
Yeah, so DNA can be deposited and removed in a variety of ways. In addition, its persistence is highly variable given a multitude of factors. Any discussion of the activities that could result in the presence, absence, or persistence of DNA is outside of the scope of this testing. Essentially what that means is I'm more than happy to go through how DNA may or may not be removed, but going through hypotheticals of could this be possible, can be kind of outside of our scope, because we are speaking on, myself is speaking on who could be a contributor, not when or how that DNA got there.
Okay. So as Mr. McCarthy asked you, you can't say how it got there. You don't know when it got there or what type of, what part of someone's body touched it to get that DNA there, correct?
That would be a fair statement, yes.
Okay. So in many of these instances, you list that it is a mixture of 2 or 3 individuals, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And obviously you only have a limited amount, I think you had 4 here, of profiles to actually test against what was found, correct?
Yeah, there were the 4 reference samples that were compared to many of the evidence samples.
Okay, so when you list 2 or 3 individuals, obviously if it is not a match for the 4 profiles that you have, you don't know who those other individuals are, right? You can just tell that there are other, I think you said peaks and valleys when you in your examination. Is that correct?
So if those 4 individuals are excluded, that would indicate that another person could have contributed those DNA types.
Okay. So I want to back up a little bit and talk about your involvement at the actual scene. So you were called out. Do you recall what time you were called out?
I don't recall without looking at either like a crime scene report or...
No worries. I believe that you indicated you went with a team or a group of people. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. And I believe Ms. Myra testified yesterday that there was close, like 9 or 10 individuals that went. Is that fair to say?
The exact amount would be listed on the report too of how many individuals. I'm sorry, I can't tell you without looking at the report.
I would rather you be certain, so no worries at all. And on that day, what was your specific role?
Evidence collection.
Okay. And obviously, we saw when you were asked to open an evidence bag today, you paused and definitely did not want to do that without gloves and a mask, correct?
That is the DNA mindset, so yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
So when you are actually at the scene and collecting evidence, are you wearing gloves and a mask?
Yes, I do when I
Okay.
collect items.
And why is that important?
I would ensure that there isn't any contamination or try to prevent any contamination. I do want to point out, though, through our DNA processing, there is many steps and many blanks and positive controls throughout each step of our DNA testing that also will be looking for any possible contamination. There was no indication that any of the samples had contamination for this request.
Okay. And when you were collecting the evidence, did you put it into different bags?
Yes,
Why is that important?
and to ensure that items aren't rubbing against one another.
Okay. And what happens when items rub against each other?
That would be along the lines of the possibility of DNA being transferred from one item to another. That is a way that DNA can be deposited and removed.
Okay. And can you describe what biological evidence is?
Biological evidence would be a biological fluid, so blood, semen, some type of fluid that comes from the body.
And when you're collecting something with biological evidence on it or suspected biological evidence, do you put that in paper bags or plastic bags?
All biological evidence, especially if I'm collecting it, will be going into paper bags. This way it prevents degradation of the DNA profiles of the possible evidence.
Can you just define degradation?
Yeah, so degradation would be that a profile that normally would be perfect to look at, there might be some missing peaks and some missing areas within that DNA profile if the profile becomes degraded. We may not get a full profile that could be utilized for comparison purposes.
Okay. And when you have those biological items that you're collecting that you believe biological evidence is on, do you try to air dry them or what do you do?
Depends on the scenario. If they're highly saturated in blood, we may try to, as in the unit, will try to dry it. If not, because it is in paper, it will still be airing out and not creating moisture in a plastic bag that would be likely to cause that degradation.
So obviously putting an item that is wet with biological evidence on it in the same package as something that is dry, there could be a transfer of biological evidence, correct?
That would be a possible way for DNA to be deposited or removed, yes.
Understood. On the day that you were there collecting the evidence, who made the call of what evidence was collected?
That's a good question. I believe there have been conversations between the detectives and upper command and Val Malira, who was the lead investigator on that scene.
Okay. Do you remember seeing a weight around Mr. Murray's, where Mr. Murray was found?
I do believe, yes, there was a weight, believe under the body-ish.
Okay. Did you collect that weight?
I did not collect that weight.
There was testimony yesterday from a responding deputy that found a swab of blood, and that is on the handrail and the wall at the very top leading down to the basement. I don't note that anywhere in your report. I don't see that in any of the photos. Do you know if you located that area, and if you did locate it, did you test it?
On the handrail going into the basement.
Yes.
Can I look at my...
Absolutely.
It's the crime scene processing reports to see exactly what I collected. Is that okay?
If that refreshes your recollection, yes.
Okay.
Just let me know when you've completed. No rush.
So I collected DNA from at the scene of large zip ties, from small zip ties. I collected apparent blood on a shutter on the basement floor, another one from the side of a box on the basement floor, the faucet on, there's a sink faucet on the basement floor, and I had also collected DNA from the duct tape around the victim's hands, Hussein Murray. That appears to be the only DNA swabs that I collected while I was on scene.
Okay. Do you have any recollection if any of the on-scene officers directed you to that presence of blood at the top of the stairs in the basement?
I don't recollect.
Okay. Now, if you did not specifically collect items, like the items you just listed, you testified that you were also provided items that were found by another police department. Do you remember that?
Yes, that was part of the request for the DNA processing.
Okay. When you are given these items, are you given some sort of report that details where these specific items were found?
In the request for testing form, I believe that the location described was from the vehicle that Carlos was in. I don't have any more information based on that request form.
Okay, so not specifically found in front seat, found in back seat, found in bag, nothing like that, correct?
I can check real quick if you want me to see what
If it refreshes your recollection, please do.
It says located in Carlos' vehicle when arrested in LA, Louisiana, I assume.
Okay, so not specific, but a general.
Yes.
Okay. I want to go over some items that were not mentioned by Mr. Petrofessa or Mr. McCarthy. Can you look at your item? I have it in your dated 3/3 report. It is item number 172-897A. I believe it's 8 nail clippings left hand.
Request number 0004. Okay. Item 1789 or 1728-97A.
Yes.
Okay.
I believe that's 8 nail clippings, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, can you describe why that is something that's important? Why nail clippings?
Nail clippings can be probative information to see potentially if a foreign profile that is other than the victim may be present.
Okay, and who took the nail clippings?
That would be the medical examiner as far as I'm aware.
Okay, and am I correct in stating that Mr. Hernandez was excluded as a contributor?
So for the left nails, 1728-97A, the DNA profile is interpreted as a mixture of 2 individuals with Hussein Murray as an assumed contributor. I believe this is the first time talking about assuming a contributor. People can be assumed within the likelihood ratios if it's coming from something that is more intimate. So by coming off of a victim's hand, if I see that the victim's profile is present, I will assume that in the hypotheses. So Hussein Murray was assumed, and for Joshua Zuazo and Carlos Hernandez, they were excluded as possible contributors to the DNA results. And then I also did a comparison to Linda Murray. Do you mind if I read that?
Absolutely not.
So based on the DNA typing results, it is approximately 286 billion times more likely if the DNA originated from Hussein Murray and Linda Murray than if it originated from Hussein Murray and one unrelated individual. This provides very strong support that Linda Murray is a contributor to the DNA results obtained.
Okay. Now let's move on. I have this in your 1119 report. It's item 173003. Should be a pair of black joggers. And I want to talk about A specifically.
Yes.
So A, I believe you tested what you believed was a stain on the exterior, correct?
Yes, so I took 2 samples from the joggers. One was a stain on the exterior that indicated the possible presence of blood, and I took another sample from the interior waistband of the joggers.
Okay, so let's talk about A specifically, stain on the exterior. Were you able to find any DNA profiles?
So in this scenario, and I have more notes further in here too, no DNA profiles were obtained from this item, and if you don't mind me flipping to what I stated exactly.
Can you just tell me what you're looking at, because that looks like a page that I don't have.
These are the notes associated with all of our DNA testing.
Understood.
Three. So there was part of the DNA process is we determine if there's a quantity of DNA present in a sample. This sample did have a quantity of DNA, so that's why it was moved forward. But then when I got to the final part of getting the DNA profile, no profile was obtained, and a hypothesis would be that because a cutting was taken, like I actually took a physical small cutting from these black joggers, that the dyes in fabric can sometimes inhibit DNA from DNA, possible black fabric cause inhibition. So this means that maybe the dyes in the fabric interacted with the chemistries that we utilize in the laboratory, and therefore no profile was obtained for this sample.
Understood. I have no further questions. Thank you.
Very briefly, just to follow up on a couple of questions both of the attorneys asked. Is the Oakland County lab accredited?
Yes, we are.
What does that mean to be accredited?
We are accredited through a body called ANAB, which is ANSI National Accreditation Board. The ANSI portion stands for the American National Standards Institute.
Okay, and your software is approved to use for your DNA analysis? This is not something you downloaded off the internet last week, right?
So in addition to the ANAB accreditation, the DNA section also has a QAS standard, quality assurance standards, that is mandated by the FBI that we have to follow in order to utilize CODIS. So therefore, all of our DNA processing is done by FBI standards. Everything we do is validated. Nothing is just used as soon as we get it.
Okay. And I believe you spoke to one of the attorneys about the controls that are in place to try to make sure everything is correctly done. What did you mean by controls?
So at each step of the DNA process, extraction to begin with, quantification at the second step, amplifying those areas of DNA that are utilized to look at a DNA profile. At each of these steps, there's a positive and possibly negative control that are associated with. If there's any indication of a quantity of DNA in a blank, I myself will go through and ensure that could there be contamination, where did it come from, and another person will then technically review all the work that I do to ensure that they also agree with the findings that I have. So.
And you would agree with me that the presence of DNA means that there is some sort of physical connection between both the person and the item at some point in time. Is that correct?
The DNA had been deposited some way, shape, or form.
Okay. The absence of DNA, on the other hand, does not mean there wasn't contact. It's just mean that there wasn't a presence through DNA left on the item.
Yeah, DNA can also be removed based on a variety of ways as well.
Okay. Hypothetically, if somebody was to go for a jog in their tennis shoes and they sweated for an hour and they were doing that barefoot, there may be DNA inside that tennis shoe. Is that correct?
Based on DNA principles of coming in contact with something else and leaving a fluid, you may be leaving DNA behind.
Okay. Now, if I add a layer of socks, would then that potentially lower the ability to have DNA there that would have been there had there been no socks?
It kind of goes into that activity level of how likely DNA is or is not deposited. I don't know exactly how much that might be impacted, but that would be a hypothetical, yes.
Okay. If I was to wear gloves, that would also potentially impact the leaving of DNA. Is that correct?
Depending on what could be on the exterior of the gloves, that would be something to consider.
Okay. If I wear 10 pairs of gloves, that would make it even less likely to leave DNA.
It would still depend on that very most exterior pair of gloves, what was on the exterior of that to be leaving DNA behind.
Okay, and you talked about samples that are left too long in certain environments can degrade. Do you remember talking about that?
Yes.
Samples that were there can also be destroyed. Is that correct?
Depending on if the DNA was removed, that would be a consideration of being destroyed.
Let's say, does fire destroy DNA?
Yes, I can, for sure.
I don't have any other questions.
All right, you may step down. Thank you.
Can this witness be excused?
I have no objection, Your Honor.
No, all right, you're excused. Thank you. What's the plan? Who do you have next?
Would you like to do lunch?
Who do you have next?
I believe